Listen to part of a lecture in a linguistics class.
Now, as you all should remember, we had an in-depth discussion about how Middle English developed from Old English. Again, recall that Middle English began after the French conquered England in the 11th century and imposed the French language upon British subjects. Today we are going to move on to what we call the early modern English phase, when the language formed into what we recognize today. Now, there were some major adjustments made over a few hundred years, and they affected just about every aspect of the language. The most important and dramatic change was in pronunciation, and this was due to the Great Vowel Shift. This is undoubtedly the most important development in the transition of Middle English to Modern English. It was a shift in the pronunciation of most vowels. Let's see, what is a good example? Okay, for instance, before the shift, the vowel sound in the word boot was pronounced O. So basically, the word was pronounced as boat. Now, after the shift, this vowel sound changed to oo. This led to our modern pronunciation of boot. Another notable change was the creation of new diphthongs. These are vowel sounds that resulted from the combination of two pre-existing vowels. Take the word time, for instance. In Middle English, it used the same vowel sound found in tree, so it was pronounced as team. The Great Vowel Shift caused this vowel sound to be merged with the ah vowel, though. As these two combined, the new vowel was pronounced I. When said quickly, it sounds like I, the sound we now hear in the word time. Now, no one knows exactly what brought about the Great Vowel Shift, although many theorize that it came about through the interaction of people with many dialects. I should also point out that some of these vowel sounds continued to evolve up until later modern English. What's also interesting is that some speakers have retained pronunciations found before the Great Vowel Shift. For example, the people of Scotland still pronounce some vowels as they were before the shift. Anyway, the important thing to remember is that the French pronunciation of vowels used in Middle English disappeared, making modern English very dissimilar from French. Another major development we should discuss is how written English became standardized. Remember that there were still many dialects being used at this time, so a single word could have multiple pronunciations. Well, when people wrote words, they would spell them according to the way they pronounced them. Can you imagine the kind of problems that caused? Obviously, a standard spelling was needed. There were two driving forces that brought this about. The centralization of England's government in the 15th and 16th centuries was the first one. The government originally used French and Latin, but as it became stronger and more bureaucratic, it found that it needed a single official language, preferably in the common tongue, English. Around the early 15th century, the English government began using a common standard based on the East Midland and London dialects for official business. This made necessary tasks like record-keeping, issuing proclamations and decrees, and other official legal tasks much easier. The advent of the printing press was the second factor. Books and other texts became more plentiful, and publishers found the inconsistencies to be a problem. The best example of this is seen in William Caxton, the first publisher in England. When Caxton began printing books in 1476, he wasn't certain of which dialect to use, so he was one of the first to realize the need for standardized spelling. Now, it's not exactly clear how far Caxton went in actually correcting these problems. However, most scholars agree he had an immense influence, at least on later publishers. In time, they began to settle on a standard form of writing in order to lessen the confusion of various dialects. One side effect of this was that our language gained many complex and confusing spellings, but we'll get into that in a minute.